This is WPSL Port St. Lucie, the talk of the Treasure Coast.
WPSL Radio and beyond. Hey Google, turn on WPSL. Hey Alexa, turn on WPSL on TuneIn. Yep, we're now available in office buildings throughout the world. WPSL Radio. Heading into the next millennium here with Google and Alexa, and welcome aboard no matter where you are in the USA, or in the case of Money Info folks listening in Europe and Asia as well, to hear the wonderful pipes of Charles Moskowitz and one Michael King in Las Vegas. So are you guys calling from under your mattresses?
Not me.
Not Charles, huh?
Nope. And not Tim in Houston. Charles and I talked about this 2 weeks ago. It was coming.
Oh, Tim in Houston. Oh, hey, Tim in Houston is bathing in his higher oil prices right now.
Well, the beginning of 2016 was worse. It dropped over 10%.
Yeah, I guess if you look at percentages, it's what, 4? So,
well, we dropped 7.66% this year, but in 2016 we were down over 10%.
Wow. Yeah, that's amazing.
What most people don't understand is how far we've come and how fast. 6 trading days ago, we were in excess of 10% higher in the S&P and the Dow. From the high, as I said, a week ago yesterday, down to yesterday's low at down 1,600, and then closing down 1175, and then this morning being down 576. Currently, we're up about 100.
Wow. Tim, what's this doing to the oil industry with all of a sudden you see numbers floating around 70?
Well, one, I don't think it's doing what people think it is. Everyone is being very conservative, and the smart money sees this as being quite possibly a rally that's driven by the Saudis and back again supporting a bid there pre-IPO. But when you look at BP's results yesterday, terrific. But also BP's CEO came out and said, we have learned to make money at $50 a barrel. And that's what the successful companies are going to do, and the other ones are going to live in a fool's paradise and think that $65 is going to bail them out. So time will tell if this is something that's going to stay or not.
Yeah, part of BP's story was the guidance going forward. That, they gave guidance up 500%.
Wow.
Operating profits, yes.
Really?
Yes.
Holy, well, a little bit better than GE, I would say right now.
This is true.
Actually, there's no love loss in our household to General Electric. When they took over NBC, it's like they totally trashed the place, and my wife was working there at the time. She said the thing that was absolutely amazing was the first day of General Electric owning NBC. She walks into the newsroom, and this was like the computers are just coming in, right? This was back in the 80s, and so anyway, all of a sudden she walked in, and there are these stickers all over everything, Merrill Lynch. And apparently, GE had leased back all the equipment. So all the television cameras and audio gear, everything had Merrill Lynch stickers on them. Every microphone It was hysterical. I mean, yeah. So no love loss in our Wyatt household for GE. We just wish it had come sooner. That's all.
Or frankly, CNBC was owned by GE also.
Well, yeah, that was a whole NBC thing. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And-
Yeah.
And all of the talking heads on it are excluded from trading stocks because of their position, and so they tend to be heavily in the company's 401k, which of course has a ton of GE in it.
Uh-oh.
And so after 2.5 or 3 years of, they would mention it on every once in a while about being, big shareholders in GE and, and watching it go from, wherever to 15, down, I don't know, 60%. And so, they really got hurt. In the meantime...
Yep, go ahead.
In the meantime, I actually think that the oil, you can correct me if I'm wrong, Tim, that the oil has actually put in a pretty interesting trading range between 62.5 and 66.5. And, until it breaks out one way or the other, I mean, that looks like it's where it's going to sit.
Yep, I agree with you. I absolutely agree. I think that what has to show is, one, either a breakout or on the downside underneath it, which I don't think is going to happen for a while.
No, I don't either. It looks pretty good.
Yeah, from a technical perspective, it looks pretty strong right now, and it's maintaining that range. And I thought if any time it was going to happen yesterday, I was so busy yesterday, I figured, okay, oil's broken $60, got to be down $4 or $5, and it held very well yesterday. I was very impressed with the price action.
I've been trading that triple leveraged inverse oil, SCO, and we were short. We started buying it actually right around where it is now. About the SCO is 21.51. I think we're in at 21.71. So we're out a couple of cents, but we also traded the options, the 20 calls that we paid about 90 cents for, and sold last week at $1.45.
Well done.
Which are sitting there right now at $1.35. So it's all in the same area.
Let me give you a quick quote from one of our most famous pundits: Kramer's sell-off strategy, spotting the market's bottom. We've all done that, right? You guys know how to spot bottoms, huh?
Oh, Kramer. Oh, my God. Oh, well.
I turn off the sound when he's on. I can't even listen to him.
What was the old thing? If Kramer picked a stock that was a sure thing, bet against it.
Short it on the rally and cover it the next week. You bet.
Oh, man.
But this is exactly why retail investors lose their rears. Reading things like this: spotting the bottom. Buy.
Yeah.
I would love to hear from, since I respect everybody on this show as being real professionals in there, what are you doing today? In fact, what did you do yesterday, Mike?
Okay. So in the letter on Sunday night, I wrote about the market and how susceptible it was, and put a chart on page 6 of the letter that was the top large cap companies that have continued to raise their dividends since July. And the first one on the list, yielding about 2.8%, was Cisco. And so my thesis was you buy Cisco where it closed at 40.93, I believe, and you sell the March 42 calls. What does that mean? Well, it means if the stock is over 42 on the expiration in the third week of March, that somebody can take your stock away. But they paid me $1.29 to sell those. So in other words, I paid, as it turned out, I paid $40.88 for the stock. I sold the options at $1.29, exercisable at 42. And so what I did was I lowered my cost on the stock to 39 and 16 cents. And if it went through, if it closed at 42.01, I would essentially have gotten 43.29. So, I was in the position of increasing the yield on the stock. I was protected for part of the downside and guaranteed a profit if the stock closed 42.01 or better. So we did that trade yesterday. The stock right now is selling for $38.80, and those options are 19 cents. So basically, we're out, I don't know, 38.85. So we're out 20 cents on a down 1,200-point day, and we're protected for part of that. And if the stock moves back up, which I fully expect it to do, we'll lose it, but we'll lose it with a $39.16 cost and a $43.29 execution because of the option. So basically, that's what we talked about, and that's what we did yesterday morning, first thing.
Charles, that's totally
Great
unacceptable.
trade. Manage your downside.
Unacceptable, guys. I want profit.
And
I want profit.
If the stock closed at 41.5, for example, on that third Friday, the option is worthless. We keep the stock, and we can write another one. So basically, what we're talking about is a yield of 8 or 9%, but the yield of 8 or 9% is in 2 months. So, you can extrapolate that out if you want, but the fact of the matter is it's the way that you generate income and get protection in a sideways or down market.
Charles,
by the way, it's the most conservative action that you can take. There is nothing more conservative than a covered right in a dividend-paying stock.
That sounds like a BOGO trade.
Kind of.
Not quite, but it's a nice yield.
No, that's very, very, very true. What's happening in the oil industry? I mean, you constantly break news on this show.
Well, this week I will have more information by next week because this week is the biggest meeting of NAPE in Houston. This is when all of the biggest players gather together, and they're buying and they're selling and they're gossiping and they're partying. And so Wednesday and Thursday of this week, I'll have an opportunity to be with a lot of industry participants and have some really good information. I don't have anything that I could jump up and down and say, gee, this is stuff I heard from insiders in the business, but I guarantee I will by Thursday night, because Wednesday and Thursday night, the real action happens in the receptions and the parties after everybody walks around the convention center. And so I'll be interested in hearing, especially what the fund managers are saying, what are the private equity guys doing in this. We already know what the big players are doing. I still doubt that the small guys are raising money, but I'll have very interesting updated information next week on what's going on.
Well, I'm just anxious to know what the Exxon employees think of the crumbs that they got.
Well, since I was an Exxon baby, my mom ran the Exxon lab at Milam and Bell in Houston for 20-some-odd years.
Really?
My first job was with Exxon. And my first car I got, so when the president of Exxon turned his car in after 3 years, I managed to get his car a book. And so I'm an Exxon baby, and I've always seen that company did wonderful things. My mother unfortunately passed away right after my senior year of high school, She left 3 kids, orphans, and
Oh, wow.
they took care of us. They gave us, each one, a year of her salary so that we could support ourselves and go to college. I don't know if they still do that today, but, 35, 40 years ago they did.
See, that's the stuff
that was
we don't know because, we're not inside that. But, I mean, wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. They treated us superbly. They really were like a family then. And I don't know if that's true today, but I certainly have a few people I can talk to about it. And the guy that just retired as both CFO and the Vice President of Corporate Strategies lives literally on the Houstonian campus here, and I've known him for a number of years. And I'll bet he'll have some good things to say. Bill was there 35 years, so he must have liked it.
Well, you know what?
But yeah, their results just don't show up as well as everybody else's. But a lot of it, I think, is very conservative reporting because of all of these lawsuits they faced before, saying they overstated reserves. I think they're being very conservative these days.
Well, it is interesting you say that. I mean, you start hearing resumes. Well, just some of the people that we've had on. Charles brought in, a few people that, used to be at Exxon. And they were there like some 20-some-odd years. Well, that's almost unheard of. But here you say that, he was there 35. I mean, that's an amazing career in one place.
But Greg, that's, 20 years ago? That's what people did.
Yeah.
And of course, on the other side of the coin was the company who gave you health insurance and matched your 401k.
And matched your 401k.
Exactly.
Yep.
By the way,
Yep.
Talking about reporting and the company, anecdotal as it may be, I don't remember what year it is, but Exxon was the first company to do $100 billion in revenues in a quarter and earn $1 billion.
Wow.
And today, that's nothing.
And a company, of course, this is a total 180. Tim's going to be surprised about this. Company right down the road from Tim, which is the largest radio broadcasting company in the country, of course, Clear Channel, is having its problems, staring at possibly a bankruptcy filing by March. The Cumulus, the number 2 largest, has done likewise. So this could be a very interesting ride in the world of broadcasting over the next 12 months.
Yeah.
Well, and as you know, I mean, the land-based radio business, it's been tougher and tougher because of the Internet. It's tougher to get the advertisers. It's tougher to cover your operating costs. And they have been under this massive restructuring for years, and iHeartRadio is just getting ready to go down. It's that simple.
Well, and it's just like what we've managed to do this week, and that's we are not only streaming on WPSL.com, which we've done since 1996, but we're going inside the home, inside the office, which never was the domain of AM before, through Alexa or Google Home. So, I mean, that in itself is changing a lot of things and will change the landscape of our business. And, of course, for us, will translate into a much higher value for these properties. So, yeah, it's kind of cool.
The fact of the matter is, you've already paid for the physical assets. The more ways that you can deliver it, the better off you are.
Exactly. And with new cars being what they are now, at least for us, they're all Bluetooth equipped. So, if you've got your phone, and obviously your phone can hook up to WPSL no matter where you are in the world. We've got, like listeners on our college basketball in Africa and Europe and Far East. So, I mean, that's normal for us now. So it's very cool. Now, The old thing, of course, like Carol says, now we got to monetize it.
Right.
Well, now we're back into the red, guys.
Oh,
We
no.
got a 934-point range today.
Jeez.
Holy smoke.
Oh.
And the fact of the matter is, it moves 100 or 200 in a matter of minutes in both directions.
Yeah, I mean, just since we started the show, it was up 150. Now it's down, 79.67?
Yep.
Well, now, okay, you guys can explain this because it's, I kept hearing the CBS News people talking about the last, is it hour or half hour, is where computer trading could really change this entire picture. I don't get that. What is that?
Okay. So if you have, let's do it just for you. If you have a portfolio of stocks and the market goes up, in order to keep balance in your portfolio, you have to rebalance it. So if stocks are up, you have to buy some. I mean, you have to sell some of the positions slightly. So if you own, 100 shares of 10 stocks and they all sell at 100, and one of them goes to 110, you have to sell 10 shares of that so that it remains the same percent of ownership in your portfolio. The way that it works in the market is you have these ETFs that are a conglomeration of stocks usually in a specific industry like retail or energy or financials. And what happens is if the market's going down and investors sell their ETFs, then the ETF has to turn around and liquidate the same percentage. Let's say somebody has the XLF, the financial ETF, and its value is $275 billion, and it goes down 5% in the day. They have to turn around and sell the same percentage of those stocks to reflect the change in the valuation of the ETF. And it kind of feeds on itself. So in other words, everybody is selling their ETF, which means the ETF has to liquidate, which means that the stocks are going down, which causes people to sell more of the ETF, which causes the ETF to have to liquidate more. So it just kind of feeds on itself. It does the same thing on the upside. And,
I saw an interesting
Go ahead.
quote yesterday, Charles. I don't know what this ETF is. I mean, it's a fairly common thing for sophisticated investors, but it's an ETF that constantly sells puts against their position so that they do exactly what you were talking about in your trade, but on a larger scale basis. Wouldn't be a bad thing to be looking for, searching for the more accomplished ETFs that do that, because this is uncharted territory for ETFs. ETFs have brought in trillions now because everybody thinks ETF equals safety. No,
Well,
it
it's not
doesn't.
only that.
ETF equals the herd.
Right. Well, and the fact of the matter is that most of the ETFs have minuscule management fees,
Exactly.
less than 0.5% a year.
Correct. Absolutely.
And so from the standpoint of, what you have to do to manage your investing, these things used to have 2 and 3 points.
Yeah.
Which
tells you all of this is done it's all algorithmically.
Yeah.
And
absolutely.
algorithms can be wrong too. So
well, it's like anything else where you're inputting into a black box. I don't want to say that what I'm going to say is in any way detritus to anybody who does this. But, just like with computers, garbage in, garbage out. If you have it and things change and algorithm is based on a rising market, doesn't really help you much on the downside, and the same way in the other direction. So, that's what these black boxes are doing. And by the way, they're doing about 70% of all of the volume in the market. So, they're going to be around. They're going to stay because it's just, what supports the market. Yesterday, we did 11 billion shares.
Amazing.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, the advanced decline volume on the New York was 23-1 to the downside. 23-1.
Wow.
For every dollar of buying, there was $23 worth of selling.
Holy smokes. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, what amazes me, and we were watching, and of course, a dear friend of ours, we all worked together in L.A. and before that in San Diego, Sue Herrera, who's on CNBC and has been for years. She and Bill Griffith came over with when CNN swallowed up the old FNN out of Santa Monica. And, we were watching her last night, and, and they're just talking about how the market's is going absolutely crazy and stuff. But, you realize that, for the average investor, and the advice that they were giving is, hey, if you're on a 1 or 2 year timeline, forget about it. Just turn off the noise because it's coming back. It was interesting, watching all of that, hearing all the experts talking about it.
Yeah, and by the way, I'm going to mention something that you probably may or may not know. But Mr. King and I were participants in the original FNN.
Whoa!
Starting in Florida.
Really, I did not know that they had started in Florida. Was this down in South Florida, Boca?
Yes.
I'll be darned. Wow.
That's okay. Call in now.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Gentlemen, I'm going to free up a spot for your next guest because I can hear Mike talking to him, and I will be happy to call in next week and update you on the energy gossip from Nape. I'll keep you posted.
Fantastic.
Have a good one, Timmy.
Yeah,
thank you.
Yeah, Timmy, thank you so much. Wow. And see, that's the advantage of having the guys that in this business. I mean, Tim Connoly is truly amazing when it comes to his oil industry, that's for sure.
Let's welcome Andy Sealfon.
Hello. Good morning, everyone.
Hey, Andy.
Good morning. Good morning.
So I know this is your first time on the show. What's the name of your company? How are things going? How are things going in RMS?
RMS Medical Products. That's REPR. We're the manufacturers of the world-famous Freedom 60 syringe infusion system. How are you gentlemen doing? I guess it's a quiet day on the market.
Yeah, quiet day. Yeah, if you like giant roller coasters, yeah. Going down. Oh man. Yeah, it's insane. But so what's going on with you guys? Tell us about the 2018 version of RMS Medical.
Well, we're doing so many things. I was just talking to one of our colleagues who just got back from the Arab Health Trade Show in Dubai. It's her first day back in the office. And she met the Dubai royalty there. We were one of the 5 companies that they actually came to meet with. So I was just catching up on that. And then I said, no, I got to run to this phone call. I can't tell you anymore. But, it's interesting how the world is changing. The largest trade show that RMS normally attends is the Medica Trade Show in Dusseldorf, Germany. And in her opinion, the Arab Health Show is now as big or bigger than the Germany show. So it shows how markets are changing, how the world is changing. A lot of the folks who used to go to Germany from that whole region of the world, as well as Asia, now come to Arab Health. And so we're opening up new opportunities in that area of the world. We have a distributor in Saudi Arabia. I think we have one in Egypt, Israel, and so we are beginning to deploy products in the Middle East. So it's kind of exciting.
Well, now, what you have just said is very fascinating, and how our world is changing. That show over there has become in Abu Dhabi has become so large. I think that is amazing that people would really start flocking to that area.
They wanted to have me go to that area, but somehow 13 hours in an aluminum tube is not my most favorite thing to do.
Hey, don't worry about it. You're gonna once that car goes up into space. I mean, he's gonna develop something. You'll be able to get there in a couple hours.
Well, that would be good, but then there's still the 9-hour time shift for your body.
Well, no, I was just going to say, it's going to be the 9-hour drive to get to Kennedy is what it's going to be. That's, oh, man. Yeah, no doubt about it. Well, I think that's fascinating. So the people who, would you say where? From Asia, who used to hopscotch, like, say, over the Arab, to Germany,
right.
Or now
that's right. Yeah, we're seeing a lot of them from Asia, from the Asian Rim countries there, obviously Africa. So it's quite a draw. Dubai is apparently a very metropolitan city. You can do anything there. You can go skiing. You can go, to the beach. They have everything there. Huge sky. I've never been there. I was supposed to go there for one of our meetings back in September, but because of scheduling and conflicts, I didn't make it. And we have a team that does Arab Health, and now we're there every year. So it's one of the major shows that we do support. And, the good news is that there's a lot of money there. What a surprise. So the cost of our products are not an issue. It's just educating on the benefits. And as we've talked about the benefits of our Freedom syringe infusion system, we have the ability to administer specialty drugs such as immunoglobulins for primary immune deficiency and other diseases. And we do it exceedingly well with a non-electric pump, a mechanical device that actually can sense what's going on in the patient and help deliver and adjust the flow rate to what the patient needs. We make the complete system, which the system requires, and now the FDA has agreed with us that everything in the fluid path needs to be specified, and it needs to be from RMS for it to function properly and to meet its use intended. So that whole concept now is different there. Previously, that area, since they had money, they used a lot of electric pumps, which for this application are really not as good. The electric pumps, you turn them on and you set the flow rate, and they just keep delivering no matter what's going on inside the patient. And that leads to a lot of adverse reactions, site reactions, complications. So we really have the better mousetrap, and it's interesting that companies that have the money are now trying to get the best job done. It's not a question of, they don't equate, well, it costs more, it must be better. The fact is we are better, and actually we can save them a couple of bucks. So, well, that's good.
That sounds amazing. Andy, I'm fascinated, and and I know I've certainly not traveled to that part of the world at all. That you had one of your women reps go to that part of the world. I think.
Yes, I did do that, and I did that for a small, tiny little reason. The lady who covers that is Manal Habib, and she's an Egyptian, fluent in Arabic.
Okay. There you go. Okay.
So we meet them on their own language with their own culture, and it's interesting because we were talking about that, and that Egyptian Arabic is understood everywhere. Unlike many of the other Arab countries, the dialects are not clear to each other. But the Egyptian Arabic is clear, and that's because they do a lot of movies and media and whatnot. And so for communicating in that part of the world, an Egyptian Arabic speaker is very effective in dealing with all of the other countries, Lebanon and Dubai, Kuwait, you name it. She can speak your language.
Wow, that's very cool. That is really very cool. But you met the royal family, huh?
Apparently, I was interrupted. Mike was calling me on the phone. Say, get on the air. So here I am. So I didn't finish the conversation.
You know what would be fascinating?
After I leave.
What would be fascinating is if you brought her on the air with you someday. I just think that's
happy to do that.
Yeah, that's very cool. So okay, so she sells in that area of the world, and then
she's our international representative. So she handles all international from the United States. We do have distributors in each area, but she attends the various meetings around the world. She will be at Medica in Dusseldorf, and she's at Arab Health.
Wow.
She's a world traveler.
That's amazing. So now how many languages does she speak?
Well, she speaks some French and, of course, English. We have German speakers. We have several people who speak French. Moi aussi, je parle un peu français, vous savez. So we do cover many of the languages.
Yeah, let me bring my wife in for that. She speaks several languages.
Ah bien. She's enchantée.
That's great. Well, locally here, everything moving along famously with our lovely FDA.
Well, we're actually the FDA. While they gave us a lot of grief due to what we think are inappropriate activities of a vicious competitor, we're done with all of that. The issues from the FDA are in the rearview mirror, and they're well behind us. We have a clearance from the FDA that is very specific. Our devices, our Freedom system, is cleared for intravenous and subcutaneous medications, including specifically antibiotics for intravenous and immunoglobulins for subcutaneous, as well as other medications as approved by the drug labeling. So we have a very clarified submission. I think FDA now understands what it is we do a little bit better. I think it's somewhat complicated. Our system is based on a totally different principle than other infusion systems. Other infusion systems are what we would refer to as a constant flow. That is, you set a flow rate in your electric pump, and that's the flow rate that it's going to deliver no matter what. And that seems like what everybody wants until you realize that if you have a problem inside the patient and that flow rate is going to continue, the pressure must go up. And so you can get some very high pressures going into the patient, which can really hurt a patient. In children and in infants, a peripheral infusion could literally take your arm off. So that's pretty serious stuff. Our system is called a constant pressure system, and because of the physics of it, it automatically and immediately slows down in the event it sees a problem inside the patient. So we have an inherent major safety advantage by design with our system. And then when you couple with we do the entire system, we do all the components so that you can get delivered a reliable and consistent flow rate, safely delivered each time, every time, we have a great strategic edge to offer both in the United States and in the world. And the world is now very happy to see this new FDA clearance that absolutely specifies these appropriate uses and indications for use and performance of the Freedom system. And as a system, this includes everything that's in the fluid path is part of the infusion pump system. Did I mess that up, or is that pretty clear?
No, that's boy, you really clarified that. It was fine, except for the fact that I think Mike's dog just attacked the mailman back there, back in Las Vegas.
Oh, I thought Mike had the croup.
Yeah, my dogs all want to participate.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, well, they probably hear voices, right? So they're just reacting to the voice, right? I would imagine. Yeah, that makes sense. So now, do you actually have a distributor set up in the Arab part of the world?
Yeah, we have a distributor in Saudi Arabia.
Okay.
We have one in Egypt. We have one in Israel. And we're setting up more distribution channels there. This show, we probably met with, 50 new potential distributors for that region of the world. We have to sort through that. We will be looking at other opportunities. We're very fussy about the kind of distributor that we want to work with. Many distributors just want to buy a product and throw it on the wagon and go call on people. And if they can, what do you have on your wagon today? That model doesn't work very well for us. We need a distributor who actually understands what our systems do, what therapies we're treating. We're just not a product. We're a therapy provider. We're a solutions provider. We support the market as part of the knowledge base to do a great job. And so our distributor needs to do a lot more than just throw the product on the wagon. They really need to understand its applications, how to teach the applications to nurses, to patients, how to problem solve with patients to optimize the treatment. And so we need distributors who really understand and appreciate how to bring huge success to the patient. We have this arcane idea that if we do a great job for the patient, we build a great company and we make lots of money. But we focus on the patient. The first order of business is we need to do a great job for the patient, especially these patients. Primary immune deficiency disease is a patient whose immune system is compromised in some way from the beginning, and they will be on treatment their whole life. So if we can do a fabulous job for this patient, both in getting the drug in conveniently, safely, painlessly, consistently, it gives them a better quality of life because they're healthier and they're more productive for society. It's also true, and one of my little sayings is, a healthy patient is actually the lowest cost patient.
Sure.
And so when people are looking at, well, your system costs, 5 cents more than some other system, it's the whole cost that counts. And if we can help keep that patient healthy and keep them out of the emergency room and out of the doctor's office and from not being sick from something else, there's that croup again. We can, we will be the lowest cost for society, and we will be giving the patient the best quality of life. The patient will be dedicated to our system, and we will have a very successful company. So that's in a quick thumbnail of what it is that we do.
Well, I think that's phenomenal, and I don't remember how many years ago it was when you started really expanding heavily into Northern Europe. And that was the model you used then, and obviously it's worked very well for you.
Yeah, the one of the first distributors we had was in the UK, and we introduced our new needle set in the UK, and it caught on like wildfire in the UK. They did a great job marketing it, and he kept calling me and saying, "This is amazing, this is amazing. Your needle sets do exactly what you said they did," which was not news to me. That's what we designed it to do. But it performed so outstandingly for the patients there. It was like a shock that, he said, this is what it's going to do. And by Jove, the needles go in real easy. Every infusion is very consistent. It's as painless as it can get. They have minimal reactions. And so going from what they were using to our needles was a godsend. And it was not very long after that, most of the other needles simply dropped out of the UK market. So that was one of our indications that we're doing it right for the patient.
Andy,
and today our needles are the best in the world.
Andy, I am just shocked that the needles did exactly what you said they would. That is just totally shocking news.
Well, that's the funny part of it because, they actually flow faster than the competitors in our system.
Okay.
They hurt less. They do less damage because we use a very interesting design for the needle tip, so they insert very easily. Needle design is quite interesting, actually. Everybody thinks a needle is a needle, of course. But actually they're not. The typical needle that's used is called a lancet needle, and a lance is something that makes a hole, and that's great when you're trying to make a hole, like you want to let blood out or something. But that's not what you want to do with our kind of needles. What you want to do with our needles is make an incision and just slip the needle in, create a little flap, and not destroy tissue and make a hole, as compared to, for example, a biopsy needle is sharp all the way around the needle, all 360 degrees. So you take a sample of tissue out, but of course your body's got to grow all that tissue back. That's a lot of damage. So even the tip of the needle is very relevant to optimizing the overall infusion. And so there are all these little nuances in every step of the process we use to optimize our system so that patients get great results.
As many times as you've been on, that was just an absolutely amazing explanation of what your needle does. I mean, it just that is truly amazing, and I could see how you're revolutionizing that whole business. I think it's very cool, very cool. So what's next for you guys? Gosh, we're almost out of time, but what's next for RMS?
Well, we're expanding into the Asia Rim countries. We're getting our certifications in Japan. We've working our way into Hong Kong and ultimately China. We have already a distributor in Vietnam who's already purchasing, and we're already providing product. And so we're expanding there. Our company's involved in about 12 trials now worldwide with major drug companies in wide-ranging areas. We're doing trials in Germany, in Sweden, in France, in Russia. We're doing trials in the United States and Canada. We're working with new drugs and new drug companies who are coming to us and saying, can your system do our drug? Can you make a special system for us? Can you make a special system for our trials? And so we are being recognized, and certainly with this new FDA shiny clearance, which confirmed everything that we had in the old clearance, but now it's really, really clear what we can do. We're seeing a lot of new applications coming our way as the pharmaceutical companies, and this is new for them. It used to be a pharmaceutical company invents a drug and throws it into the market, and you figure out how to deliver it. Now they realize in order for their drug to be successful, they have to have a very good delivery system and get that drug safely into the patient. So they're spending a lot of resources now trying to figure out drug delivery systems, and they have come to us as the best of the bunch to work with them to develop good delivery systems, and that's why we're working in so many trials now. It looks like we'll be up to about 17 trials over the next 6 months. So we've taken on quite a load. Our people are quite taxed on working with so many different drugs and different pharmaceutical companies and translations. You have no idea what it takes to translate all of your manuals and all of your technology into Russian.
Oh.
So, Andy, is that why we're beginning to see, and I'm just going by what I see on television, but is that why we're beginning to see so many of the drugs contained within a delivery system? The ones that I see the most, of course, are the insulin ones, Victoza or any of those that literally you buy it and it's a delivery system to boot.
Well, everybody's looking for a way of discriminating themselves from the competition. And
Right.
as I say, the drug companies are now aware that the delivery system is an integral part of the process of getting their fantastic drug into a patient safely and repeatedly and reliably. And so more and more, if it's especially if it takes technique and something different, the vehicle of delivery becomes a very important part of the extension of the drug. If you make a brilliant drug and you can't get it safely delivered into the patient, the drug is going nowhere. And I think pharmaceutical companies are now recognizing that. And so as they develop their drugs, they're coming to companies like ours, and we're the leaders in our area, certainly for subcutaneous administration, and for many of the intravenous medications. We're a market leader in this niche of high-performance, low-cost, out of the hospital, that is, in subacute or home care areas where you need a very robust and powerful, strong, reliable system. They're coming to us to get those drugs in safely. So I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, that's amazing. Well, Charles, how's Andy's stock heading today? Or dare I ask?
Fortunately, with little companies like this, they tend to be a little less susceptible to these kind of sell-offs and rallies. And Andy's stock was down just slightly yesterday after being down in the middle of the day. Not terribly, but so it's hanging around this 99 to $1.05 area.
Yeah,
and
cool.
Acting well.
Very cool. Well, all right. Thank you very much. Wow, great show. Money Info. Charles Moskowitz in Boston, Mike King in Las Vegas. Money Info now available on your Google Home and Alexa, and of course WPSL.